Hello, good morning and welcome to Joy News Desk. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Coming up this morning, Finance Minister Ato Forson touts government's achievements, says Ghana's economy will rebound or rebuild the nation.
The Bank of Ghana will stay data-driven and cautious, holding inflation within the targeted band of 8 ± 2 and easing only when safe. Speaker, Central Bank is doing a good job.
We engage stakeholders here on News Desk. Also this morning, more than 300 Dajuni Hwidiem residents are remanded for 2 weeks, others mistakenly arrested. We got the latest of these coming up shortly, and also ahead this morning, Deputy Defense Minister pledges government's full support to bereaved families as investigations begin into Elwak Sports Stadium stampede.
Investigations have begun into the incident to understand the circumstances surrounding it and to prevent future occurrences.
We've got the details plus business coming up in the next 1 hour. Stay with us. Let's begin from yesterday's budget presentation, where Finance Minister Dr. Ato Forson has touted government's achievements, indicating that Mahama administration's agenda goes beyond stabilizing Ghana's economy, where he believes government is also focused on rebuilding the nation and laying a strong foundation for inclusive and sustainable growth. Presenting the 2026 budget statement and economic policy to Parliament on Thursday, Dr. Forson said government's ongoing reforms reflect a vision of national renewal anchored on discipline, equity and transformation. The following report has more.
Finance Minister Dr. Ato Forson opened his 2026 budget presentation with a sharp critique of the previous Akufo-Addo government, accusing it of leaving behind what he described as a ticking time bomb economy.
We met an economy in distress, weighed down by debt, weakened by mismanagement, and stripped of confidence. Mr. Speaker, in the 2025 budget...
On the economy itself, the government says it has begun the rationalization of the VAT system, a move expected to reduce the effective VAT rate on all goods and offer much needed relief to businesses.
The new VAT reforms will do the following. We will abolish the COVID-19 health recovery levy. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the decoupling of govt and national health insurance levies from the VAT tax base. So, Speaker, we will abolish VAT on recognizance and prospecting of minerals.
The Finance Minister announced the abolition of the COVID-19 levy as part of efforts to ease the tax burden while pledging to widen the tax net to capture more eligible Ghanaians. He also hinted at plans to re-enter the domestic bond market, where the Bank of Ghana expected to help stabilize key economic indicators.
The Bank of Ghana will stay data-driven and cautious, holding inflation within the targeted band of 8 ± 2 and easing only when safe. Speaker, Central Bank is doing a good job.
In the energy sector, Dr. Ato Forson disclosed that power purchase agreements that have long drained the economy have all been successfully renegotiated.
Mr. Speaker, for the first time, we are not accruing new arrests in the energy sector. The Electricity Company of Ghana revenues has risen almost 90%, from 900 million to 1.7 billion Ghana cedis per month.
The Finance Minister noted that ECG's revenue collection has improved, and government will now focus on reviving declining oil production to boost energy output.
Ghana's oil production has witnessed consistent decline over the years, falling from 71.4 million barrels in 2019 to an estimated 36 million barrels in 2025, almost 50% decline. President Mahama has taken decisive action to reverse this trend.
One of the biggest highlights was the 24-hour economy, the flagship initiative of President Mahama. The Finance Minister reaffirmed government's commitment to the policy, announcing plans to build new factories and restrict the export of raw materials to spur local processing and job creation.
3 new garment factories in Bono East, Central and Eastern regions will be established to operate under the 24-hour economy. To strengthen local manufacturing, export of non-ferrous scrap metals and raw rubber will be restricted under the Feed the Industry program. 7 new agro-processing plants in the Northern, Central, Ahafo, Bono, Northeast, Bono East, and Western North regions will soon be fully operational.
In Agric, the government plans to establish farmer service centers nationwide and procure modern farm equipment to boost productivity.
The government will provide agriculture mechanization machinery for 50 agriculture districts with over 4,400 different machineries. Mr. Speaker, these machineries will include the following. Mr. Speaker, we'll be getting 660 tractors, 3,000 tractor trailers, 200 mini tractors.
Under the Big Push agenda, the major infrastructural drive and Accra-Kumasi Expressway was announced.
Ghana's first modern 6-lane bi-directional Class A expressway, stretching 198.7 kilometers. The Accra-Kumasi Expressway will link the capital to the Ashanti region.
In education, government will begin phasing out the double-track system and embark on a massive retooling of schools to enhance teaching and learning.
Mr. Speaker, government is rolling out a 2-year program to end the double-track system in our secondary schools. Mr. Speaker, under this program, we will upgrade Category A schools by building new classroom blocks. We will upgrade 10 Category B schools to Category A, equipping them with modern classrooms. We will accordingly upgrade 30 Category C schools to Category B. Mr. Speaker, we will build new classrooms, dormitories, and modern science resource centers.
On the health front, Dr. Ato Forson announced the construction of 6 new regional hospitals and the completion of 10 Agenda 111 hospitals started under the previous administration.
Mr. Speaker, government will begin the construction of 6 new regional hospitals for 6 newly created regions, beginning with 3 hospitals in 2026 and 2 district hospitals at Bole and Shaba. Mr. Speaker, also in 2026, government will complete 10 Agenda 111 hospitals. We will continue the General Hospital, Efiem Kwanta Hospital in Sekondi Takoradi Metropolis.
The security sector will also see significant investment in 2026 with plans to retool the Ghana Armed Forces and the Fire Service to improve national security readiness.
For the Air Force, procurement will begin immediately in 2026 for 4 new helicopters and 2 aircraft to enhance airlift. Government will retool the Ghana National Fire Service with 100 fire tenders and assorted fire equipment.
However, the finance minister also revealed that some corruption cases are under investigation, promising government's commitment to accountability.
An equivalent of $31 billion in transactions were transferred abroad with no goods imported into the country. Mr. Speaker, these leaks bleeds our reserves.
The minority, in a sharp response after the budget presentation, dismissed the 2026 budget as a lamentations budget, claiming it offered little hope to the Ghanaian people.
After several months on the job, he came to repeat the same lamentation, part 2 of his lamentation. When the minister himself is a minister, is a member of parliament, and fails to recognize the parliament and its work, and you say we should hail you. Look at the ministers and their faces. Mr. Speaker, 2025, he should tell us the releases he gave them. When he was mentioning some of the figures, the ministers were looking as if this is the first time they were seeing the figures. Was there any consultation? Mr. Speaker, was there any consultation?
But the majority leader fired back, insisting the budget lays the foundation for economic recovery and renewed growth.
It is not lamentations. It is the continued unearthing of the bad economic management of the NPP that is being revealed every day. Mr. Speaker, it is obvious from the budget statement that the NPP government was the worst case study of bad economic management.
Dr. Ato Forson's 2026 budget paints a picture of optimism, tax reliefs, infrastructural promises, and an ambitious 24-hour economy. But as always, the real test will be in delivery and whether the numbers will match the rhetoric in the months ahead.
So let's engage some stakeholders on this, and joining me in studio is Dr. Nanaya Udichim, who is the Director of Policy for the United Party. On Zoom is Dijeje Fiajo, who is a partner at Tax Services PwC. We also have Wipia Awal Ado, who is the President of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time this morning. I'll begin with you, Doctor, in the studio. You listened to it. I believe that you listened to it yesterday throughout as well. What really stood out for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. And I always seize the opportunity to commend platforms like you when you grant smaller parties, as we are so called, the opportunity to also share our perspective on national issues. And the second issue is that, yes, I mean, yesterday the minister did a legitimate constitutional duty on behalf of His Excellency the President. So it is nothing new. But what stood out for me, one, is that first you can say that, yes, they've made some gains at the macroeconomic front, which you cannot take away from them. What are the key indicators? Yes, they promised, for example, to achieve a 4% growth, GDP growth. They've, as at October, achieved about 6.8, which is commendable. But I don't think this growth created enough jobs to reduce the significant unemployment we have, especially among the youth. What it shows is that government is creating jobs in areas where the jobs are not sustainable, or the growth is coming up but with no jobs. Secondly, you could look at the mismatch. It means that government is not investing or prioritizing areas like industrialization or manufacturing. Because in 2025 budget, we criticized the then Movement for Change, criticized the finance minister and government for not outlining any measures to incentivize the private sector. And it is very key for economies like ours, where the private sector requires hand-holding to compete in the global stage. We didn't see that in terms of policy prescription. We didn't see that in execution, and we did criticize that. And that has resulted in that. My second issue is, even when you look at the government-owned achievement, yes, indeed, inflation, they've even outperformed their own target, which is commendable. But what we need to understand, the anchor of that is an extreme tightening of the liquidity of the economy. And I agree with the minority leader when he said allocations to key sector ministries did not go. On paper, yes, they went through the appropriation, but no very low-level disbursement happened. And when it happens, it means that they cannot pay service providers, they cannot pay contractors, and you cannot have money to spend in the system. And we are an economy with a very low marginal propensity to spend. So if you stifle the economy of liquidity, you are reducing what we call household expenditure, and therefore they cannot contribute to the development that we expect.
So if I understand you clearly, you're trying to say that although the figures looked good on paper, inflation and other things looked good on paper, but it's not reflecting in the pockets of people.
No, you are a communication expert, so you put it in a very nice narrative, but that's the point I'm making. Yes, you've achieved stability, but you need to quickly move into transformation. But the budget, 2026 budget, cannot help us to transform the Ghanaian economy because we are not touching the structural defects that we always talk about. What are the structural defects? One, we need to do a lot of value addition. You cannot do value addition when you are investing extreme amount, over 30 billion has been promised for big push. And if you look at that, a lot is going into roads, which is important because road is an economic infrastructure, yes. But if you construct the road, and there are sectors, there are areas in Ghana where we have good roads, but there are no economic activities happening. So our proposition is that, first, you need to have a balanced investment. look at the private sector, let them establish manufacturing entities, and then you support by extending infrastructure. That will reduce their cost of production. But if you invest heavily in that, to us, it's more of targeting procurement, which immediately you get some returns, but it cannot sustain or transform the economy in terms of its structural defect. So that is our disappointment in that. Yes, government also look at the debt sector, announced 45% of GDP. Significant because it moved down from 60-something. But you know, at the back of the appreciation of the currency, and at what cost? You know, we've paid heavily for that. We are depleting our reserves to shore up the cedi. To me, it has its immediate benefit, but it's not something that you can do in the long haul. How you can achieve currency sustainability is to boost export. And it comes back to investing in value addition so that we reduce export of raw materials and add value. I'll give you a typical example.
Before you give me the typical example, Dr. Duchum, you know we have a number of guests that we have to engage as well. I'll come back to you. You are in the studio with me, but the rest of them are joining me via video link. And I can now speak to Dijeje Fiajo, who is a tax expert. You've been listening in, especially to what Dr. Duchum has said. Of course, this budget was big on taxes, the abolition of the COVID-19 levy, the decoupling of GET Fund, among many others. But let's start with what a couple of things that Dr. Duchum has been saying. Do you agree with him or otherwise?
No, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I think that if you ask me what my view is of the budget, I'll say that it's a pragmatic consolidation. I agree with Dr. Duchum when he says that it's not transformative because the structures that we keep talking about, we are not changing. But you can also understand that it's coming from a certain point. The point is that we were in a bad place, let me put it that way, and now we're trying to get out of it. So you can understand what the minister is doing. But where you have to compare that to the promises that were made, and then you say you want some level of transformation. You want some good level of government spending. You want initiatives to be tied together in such a way that it would trigger, it will put money in pockets, it would trigger very much spending and also the economy in a special way. So yes, the budget is careful. Maybe that's another word I'll use. And when you look at it in line with the revenue streams and also how the spending is going, obviously you can't spend what you don't have. It is indeed still careful.
We know how important taxes are to every economy. But here we are, for example, the COVID-19 levy has been abolished. He also mentioned that VAT rate has been reduced from 21.9% to 20%. Really, what impact are these tax reductions going to have on the economy?
Great. So I think when it comes to the tax initiatives, the first thing I'll say is that is the design meant to directly spur on anything in particular? I'd say no. It is a streamlining. It is, we had a lot of concerns about our VAT. Our VAT was beginning to appear as sales tax and VAT together, and there were costs that were lingering. Those concerns were raised long ago. The minister promised to look at them, so he's decided to streamline them. One of those cost elements was actually the COVID levy, which they promised they would take away. The other was the GET Fund and the NHIL decoupling, which made goods and services quite expensive. That he needed to streamline. But the minister took what I consider to be a longer route to doing this because he wanted to look at all the other handles. And I can understand that. The reason for that is if you decouple these taxes or you cancel some of them, where are you going to fill the gap? Where are you going to get the revenue to actually block it? So some of the other initiatives that were brought in were the threshold increase. Threshold increase will mean that you're taking a good number of small businesses out. The cost of collecting VAT will become more efficient because those who are VAT savvy, it can be a complicated tax, are the ones that will now be doing the collection and remitting. But the challenge with that, if you think about it, is that in the near term, there will be a drop in revenue. In the long term, when business grows, you reap up the benefit. So there's some dependency on what you spare. Now, it brings me to the point of what this will spare. Incidentally, businesses are not operating, in my view, as fluidly as they should, because anytime they make one move, there's a cost that lingers. There's some 6% in COVID and Get Fund and NHIL. That seems to attract any activity they do. Now, you give the opportunity for businesses to engage in a lot more transactions and move freely because they can claim those costs fully now. That also means that they can grow, the top lines can grow, and more revenue can be collected. But that is, if you look at it in a year span, probably towards the second part of the year, because in the short term, once this is implemented, you're going to cut out some of your VAT handles in the lower. You probably are also going to create a few problems, maybe crystallize some VATs in the small businesses, because now they don't have the right to claim. So there has to be a certain transition that is worked out, and a certain level of support that may be given to them as well. So I dare say, is the right decision to make. But there'll be a few challenging times for us in the first month or two, and then we have to, and we are believing that the administrators of taxes will be charitable and will actually help taxpayers through. The third thing I want to talk about the VAT is the rate. The minister was careful enough to say the effective rate of 21.9 to 20%. Yes, in the calculation, he is right. Because if you look at all the VAT and the other taxes that are associated with it, you come to an effective rate of 21.9.
Okay.
So he's saying that he's given a reduction, which is right because he gives a rate of 20. But it's much more than that, because he's also giving an input claim for the whole amount, which didn't used to be as well. So they have taken some, in this case, some very daring steps to encourage businesses to do more. And we can only look to businesses to actually respond. Maybe I just want to tie it to something. If you look at the near term and the expected increases, right? You look at all the tax handles in the shadow. There's an expectation for all the tax handles to increase, including VAT, increase by 17% thereabout. And it makes me wonder, have we factored in enough the challenges that it may come with? Because that may cost us some revenue.
Okay.
Are we expecting then that it will grow even better and then we'll be able to catch up? So these are some of the details that I'm sure the minister and his team and the policy folks are actually thinking about carefully. And they'll be doing some hard work around that to make sure that VAT still gives us the revenue we are looking for.
Mr. Fiajo, hold on for me. I'll come back to you. Let me now bring in Wepia Ado, who is the president of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. And of course, there were a number of issues that the finance minister touched on concerning AGRIC, which you are part of. For example, he mentioned about the over 200 solar-powered boreholes that will be drilled to support vegetable production across Ahafo Eastern, Upper West, Bono East, and in over 40 secondary schools across the country. And he said that the reason is to cut imports and strengthen the city by reducing seasonal vegetable shortages. Mr. Ado, you also listened to it, and of course your area of interest and expertise is on AGRIC. Were you impressed?
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to your viewers. Yeah, that was a welcoming news for us in the association. Of course, we have a lot of members around the Upper West region, in the northern sector, of course, in the northern sector in particular, and the Middle Belt. So if you look at the minister talking about around 2,000 solar-powered boreholes, it's a welcoming news because this is the era of climate change. We are not having enough rainfalls as is expected for us to do production. And if you also look at Ghana, we import a lot of vegetables, especially tomatoes from Burkina Faso. We import a lot of onion from Niger, northern Nigeria, and other places. So if we are supposed to undertake irrigation to ensure that we are able to do all year-round production, it's going to save this country. I remember about 2-3 years ago, Ghana was spending no less than $400 million to import tomatoes from Burkina Faso. So if the government is ready to undertake this initiative by installing these solar-powered boreholes across the country or in the areas that has been mentioned in the budget, then it will go a long way to support agriculture production. We are looking at this particularly because, the previous government had an initiative called the One Village, One Dam.
Right.
It was a welcoming news. So those of us, when we analyze this initiative, the dams that were supposed to be constructed in the northern Ghana, of course, some of the dams were constructed, but in our own assessment, a number of the dams were not fit for purpose. I remember the association made an assessment, and we presented a report to the then Vice President, His Excellency, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So it's a welcoming news. We only want to believe that government should engage all the stakeholders. All the stakeholders should be involved so that this project becomes a success, so that we don't see, it doesn't become like the One Village, One Dam, which was constructed without much stakeholder consultation, which led to the defeat of the purpose of the construction of the dam. So it's a welcoming news to us.
Peasant farmers have occasionally raised issues and concerns with drought and other things that are hindering their job. Was there anything that you were expecting the sector minister to touch on that he failed to do so?
Yeah, for the issue of drought, like I indicated, we wanted to hear in the budget that, because in the presentation of the One Village, One Dam assessment, we made laudable recommendations to the previous government. So we were expecting that the minister will also take that policy, the One Village, One Dam. It's a laudable initiative. Let's really look into the policy and let's look at the design of the dams. Let all the stakeholders be consulted so that at the end of the day, that project will work. And of course, also to deal with the issue of drought and climate change, we are also looking at government constructing the Kwalugu multipurpose dam. This dam has been on the drawing board for many years. Again, we have been making inputs into every year's budget, alerting government that the Kwalugu multipurpose dam needs to be constructed, because the construction of that dam alone will resolve the issue of Ghana importing vegetables on annual basis from our neighbors, and it's going to reduce the pressure on the city. So we will still expect that the Kwalugu multipurpose dam should be a priority. The One Village, One Dam can be looked into. All the recommendations we made, government can really look into it, in addition to the solar-powered irrigation that government wants to bring on board. And of course, government must also invest in research, because where we have also reached, we need to invest in research to be able to come out with drought-resistant seeds, the seeds that can withstand the drought, and we need a lot of investment to that area. The Council for Scientific and Industrial Research should receive a lot of funding, so they will be able to develop different varieties that can resist drought for our farmers or our members to be able to plant and grow food for this country. So these are some of the areas that we'll expect to see. Last year, government itself launched what we call the Irrigation for Wealth project, which was launched in about 8 regions.
Right.
We didn't see much of that work. So this year, we want to see the Irrigation for Wealth, want to see more work on the ground. The dams should be constructed, there should be expansion of dams, and of course, the Ghana Irrigation Development Authority should be engaged. We want to see more of that project that was launched after, I think it was launched this year by the government. We didn't see much of it on the ground. So my attention also needs to be paid to that. And of course, at the end of the day, since we can no longer rely on the rainfall, then we will expect to see that we have access to irrigation to be able to do all year-round farming.
Are you speaking about the Feed Ghana program, if I'm not mistaken? But if that's not it, he also mentioned the Feed Ghana program, which was launched somewhere in April this year. And already the minister says that they've distributed about 2,000 metric tons of hybrid maize seeds, 1,000 metric tons of rice seed, 4,000 metric tons of maize seed have also will be distributed next year. These distributions, of course, the most beneficiaries are going to be peasant farmers. Is this something that you're looking forward to, especially ahead of 2026, where this budget is going to take effect?
Yes, this is something that we are looking up to as members of the association, because like I indicated, those seeds are very crucial to us. If you look at the cost of production, to the peasant farmer, we actually need support. We need some of these seeds from government to be able to push in us. Right now you look at the cost of mechanization, plowing 1 acre of land, you are looking at the cost of agrochemicals, the cost of fertilizer, and so on. So these are interventions that are welcoming to us as smallholder farmers, and it will go a long way to reduce our cost of production. And if our cost of production goes down, what it means is that we can expand our farms, and once this expansion comes in, we are going to be able to produce more and supply more food to the market to reduce prices and, of course, to ultimately drive inflation down.
Mr. Repia Awal Ado, thank you very much. That's the president of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. And I still have in the studio with me Dr. Educhum from the United Party. I mean, it's not only the economy that they spoke about. The sector minister also spoke about the transformations happening in education, for instance, in health. In education, though, what really stood out for me is that they said that they have a 2-year plan to ensure that the double-track system is abolished. That is something that has raised a lot of eyebrows since it was introduced. Do you think this is feasible, 2 years to abolish the double-track system?
Yes, I mean, if you look at the allocation that has been promised in the construction of dormitories and classroom blocks, I think it is. But you see, the track record for this year hasn't been very impressive in terms of releases. So it's difficult for one to be too confident about this kind of recommendation or budget allocation. The government must prioritize, of course, education. And we believe that in terms of looking at that in a strategic sense, government should also try to involve private capital at the tertiary level so that government can have fiscal space to invest in the secondary cycle. So it's something that is feasible, but it depends on the priority of the government. But it's very important that households or the families are relieved of that burden, having to manage this green, blue, yellow system.
And of course,
I wanted to say something small about revenue mobilization at the back of my colleague from Pricewaterhouse. I mean, he's highly experienced professional, and I agree with the things that he said. Just to add that if we must also evaluate government performance based on their past policies. If you recall, in 2025 budget, the finance minister also said that they are going to use AI and blockchain technology to improve revenue collection and block leakages. I was amazed that yesterday he announced that himself through what they call invoice declaration form. There is a leakage of billions of cedis going out that he was lamenting about. And the promise is that he's going to use AI to solve that problem. I think that our members of parliament must do a good job by interrogating what specific technology prescription that is going to implement at customs operation to ensure that we reduce leakages. It's very important for me. In that respect also, we must also find out, if you remember, he also lamented or say that one of the things that he personally was surprising to him was the dubious claim by contractors for payment for jobs not done. They raised invoices, and he employed the services of Pricewaterhouse and I think KPMG with the Auditor General to investigate, and they came out with an amount of over 10 billion cedis, which he refused to pay because they are not supported by work done. My position is that, and the media must push this, that we must identify those who made those dubious claims and prosecute them. Because I give you an example, World Bank procurement or African Development Bank or AfriExim, these multinational institutions, if you even make attempt doing contracting to influence or have a favor for you to be awarded a contract, you'll be barred for a number of years. You cannot even bid for World Bank job or African Development Bank job. And I think that we shouldn't just announce it on the floor of the House or in Parliament, thinking that is an achievement to save the country 10 billion. Who were behind these dubious claims? Yeah. We need to identify them and prosecute them. And my brother, I think that you can do a better job in pushing for that. That prosecution must happen.
Indeed.
And you were talking about education. I want to also raise the issue about Mahama Cares. I think it's a very good program because our health sector requires a huge investment. 2.3 billion has been allocated to that. We need to know the details. And I think during the appropriation, we must follow that up and identify how they also align to existing intervention to deal with the weaknesses in our health sector.
Okay. Dr. Nanayo Educhim, thank you very much. He's Director of Policy with the United Party. I still have Dijeje Fiajo with me. Before I let you go, though, what are your departing words? Were you impressed with this budget presentation by the Finance Minister, especially on the issue of taxes? Briefly.
Okay. I think that the government is making progress, particularly on the issue of taxes. In fact, it takes a lot to actually clean up taxes and still project that you are going to make some growth. So on that score, I see that they're doing the right things. I mean, around streamlining taxes, I take it from a technical point, and also maintaining what will be still a steady growth in revenue mobilization. But what is unfortunate is that the growth is steady. Our mobilization is not where it's supposed to be. And I think he referenced the medium-term revenue strategy as what they'll be focusing on. By its design, we should be getting towards 20% by 2027. And this is the budget for 2026. So there is still some work to do. And I don't see how we can just move. Now it's sitting at about 14%. It wasn't any different in 2025. It had crossed 13% or is projected to cross 13%. So domestic revenue mobilization is important. And now he's falling on the market to the domestic market, actually, because that's the option he has to actually fund the budget. So revenue mobilization, a lot more needs to be done there. There is still some work to do if the way I look at it, if you are following even the guidelines we have set for ourselves. So there's still some work, but they're on the right track. They need to accelerate a bit more, I would say.
Dijeje Fiajo, thank you very much. He's a tax expert. And I also had in the studio Dr. Nana Yaweduchim, who is the Director of Policy with the United Party. And earlier also you heard from Wepia Awal Ado, who is the President of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. Away from the 2026 budget presentation, more than 300 persons have been remanded into prison's custody for 2 weeks over an alleged attack on some members of the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat and officials of the Environmental Protection Authority, well, including journalists as well. The individuals who are residents of Dajuni and Angwa in the Ashanti region, Hwidiem, Kenyase, Goso in the Ahafo region were apprehended in a joint military police swoop. Emmanuel Bright Kweku reports some relatives of the suspects insist on their mistaken arrests. And of course, we'll bring you updates on that particular story later. But in the meantime, Deputy Defense Minister Ernest Buja-Gyamfi has assured full government support for the families of the 6 applicants who died in Wednesday's stampede at the Elwak Sports Stadium. Mr. Gyamfi, together with the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, on Thursday led a government delegation to Adentan and Bone to commiserate with 2 of the bereaved families. The team offered condolences and pledged state's commitment to stand with them through this difficult period.
Families of the 6 young recruits who lost their lives in the Elwak Stadium stampede are still gripped with deep sorrow, their homes filled with grief as tears continue to flow. Among the deceased is 20-year-old Yvonne, a level 300 student of the University of Ghana, whose life was cut short while pursuing her lifelong dream of serving her country. Her family at Adentan remains inconsolable.
Really heartbreaking because she's the only daughter and the first grandchild of our family.
As part of efforts to provide psychological and emotional support, a government delegation led by the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Agnes Momolati, and Deputy Defence Minister, Ernest Brojejemfi, visited some of the bereaved families to commiserate with them. The Gender Minister, after interacting with the grieving relatives, assured them of government's full support during this difficult period.
As a government, we stand with you and we do our best to support you.
Deputy Defence Minister Ernest Brojejemfi said government has commenced investigations into the tragic incident to prevent a recurrence and reaffirmed its commitment to support the affected families.
Investigations have begun into the incident to understand the circumstances surrounding it and to prevent future occurrences. Your child was a Ghanaian, and the government stands firmly with you during this difficult time.
The delegation also visited the family of Matilda, another victim from Kong Katamanso, urging the bereaved to remain strong in these trying times. Meanwhile, parents of the injured victims are appealing to government to give priority to their wards once they recover, to honor their perseverance and sacrifice.
We are appealing to the authorities to ensure that the injured victims are enlisted into the military without having to wait in queues again when the process resumes. When the process starts again, we urge the authorities to give special consideration to the injured persons to help ease their struggles.
The ministers are expected to continue visiting other bereaved families in the coming days to offer comfort and reaffirm government support. For Joy News, Fatal Bayaga, Accra.
May their souls continue to rest in peace. Joy News Desk takes a break. We'll be back with more.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Absa Bank Ghana has reaffirmed its commitment to enhancing the country's export competitiveness through collaboration with stakeholders. The bank is therefore working with industry players and the Federation of Association of Ghanaian Exporters to assist them with training and low-interest funding. Emmanuel Mensah is head of trade and working capital at Absa Bank and has been speaking at the bank's Exporters Dialogue in Accra.
This dialogue half-day engagement brought together exporters, trade associations, financial experts, and government partners to discuss key challenges and opportunities within Ghana's export sector. According to Absa Bank, this is critical to support the exporters in accessing other African markets and thereby expanding the economy. Here's Head of Trade and Working Capital at Absa Bank, Emmanuel Mensah, speaking to Joy Business after the session.
And the purpose of this forum or export advantage is to really partner with exporters, stakeholders within the exporting value chain, to really co-create solutions that will support the needs of these exporters and help ensure a bolstering of our exports as a country, which obviously has economic impact to the wider economy. So Absa is here to support exporters and ensuring that we co-create financing solutions that are tailored to their specific needs, and then also help them to grow their exports, which then also benefits the country as a whole.
President of the Federation of Association of Ghana Exporters, Davis Kobo, welcomed the move and called for further collaboration to support Ghanaian exporters.
Which for me is timely. It's timely in the sense that at this new era where we are having 24-hour economy and accelerated exports development, the main goal is for us to be able to add value to our things, produce more and export more. But by doing that, there will be challenges, and the finance, access to finance, in as much as the banks are not really, I would say, giving out financing. I also think that our members should be bankable ready for them to be able to access those funding. Hence, this particular workshop.
The event was also used to explore some opportunities in other key markets across the globe.
Has launched its annual Sustainability Week to reinforce its commitment to achieving net zero emissions by 2040. Chief Corporate Services and Sustainability Officer Ato Forson says sustainability is now a core part of MTN's business strategy, noting that the company's head office and data centers are powered by solar energy and that biodegradable SIM cards have been introduced under its Project Zero initiative.
MTN Ghana's week-long Sustainability Week at MCN House brings together corporate partners, environmental advocates and policymakers to promote environmental protection, social inclusion and ethical business practices. Chief Corporate Services and Sustainability Officer Ato Forson says sustainability is now central to MTN's operations. Through its Project Zero initiative, the company aims for a net zero emission by 2040, powering its head office and data centers with solar energy and introducing biodegradable SIM cards to reduce its carbon footprint.
It is not something that we do as a corporate social responsibility. It's strategic. It's at the core of our business, sustainability, viability, longevity going forward. So for MTN, we have a goal of achieving net zero by 2040. It's very important that we begin to look at products that are less harmful to the environment, and we just launched a biodegradable SIM and a statement of where we are going as a business.
Representing government, Technical Director at the Ministry of Climate Change and Sustainability, Cedric Jalu, commended MTN for complementing national climate initiatives. He said the government is integrating climate sensitivity into major programs while also advocating for fair climate financing at COP30.
The agenda at COP30 as we speak, being led by the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources and the Minister of Climate Change and Sustainability, is first of all to advocate for climate adaptation. Number one. Number two, we are looking for climate finance that goes beyond pledges to performance. We are calling for a new mechanism in terms of the finance architecture for Ghana and African countries.
The launch also featured a touching moment when Selina Kwache, a receptionist at MTN, received mobility support under the company's inclusion drive.
Honestly speaking, I'm very emotional. I am very, very emotional about this because I wasn't expecting this at all. Movements has been one of the most difficult things for me because of the reach here, the manual one. And most of the time when I go home, I feel pains all over because I have to reel myself all over again. I'm so happy.
As MTN Ghana deepens its commitment to sustainability and inclusion, the company says it will continue to innovate, collaborate, and champion initiatives that make both business and the planet thrive.
All right, and that's it for this segment. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwao. Handing you back to Ken. It's good to see you early in the morning.
Yeah, quite unusual, isn't it? Good to see you too.
Yeah.
They failed to fulfill your promise of showing your shoe.
The full shot, please.
Well, that's it for Joiny's desk.
There you go. They showed it.
Okay, they finally showed it. Beautiful shoes, by the way. That's it for Joiny's desk this morning. My name is Kenneth Jessic. The news team returns at midday with Joiny's today. Have a good morning.